So we should all know about the Facebook adoption groups. This is something I talked about before, probably like some years ago. I had a video about this in my Cash for Kids system playlist. And I don't even know if it was on this channel or if it was back when I was still doing the abuse evidence videos. But it may still be there unless they removed it. Pretty much it showed how kids were like going to adoption concerts where they were trying to show their possible adoptive parent that they could play the piano and dance and sing just to be adopted off Facebook. I noticed that it seems to be a mix of scammy type stuff and also selling reborns and claiming to sell babies, but it's kind of hard to tell what all they're actually doing. Some people are claiming that they're getting scammed, but I doubt anybody who isn't either trying to like be controlled opposition would even really make comments like that, because I mean obviously this is either going to be for traffickers and people who I guess I could say like to take part in the Cash for Kids system, so other abusers. So off the bat, we see a pizza. And you should already know that that's one of the SRA sex trafficking symbols. Now, what's confused me is that lately I've heard pizza be used for pretty much any kids. But back when I originally started looking into this stuff at like 7, I had always learned that pizza meant melanated kids, or at least quote unquote black kids, and Mexican kids were called different names for furniture, or mixed kids too. Kind of like the situation with the not rooms to go. What was it? Wayfair. And I forgot what other ethnicities or whatever will be called, but that's the part that I do remember. Food and furniture. But yeah, so that's what that means. Although the thing that I noticed is that the pizza and the cake look super fake. And what baby is gonna eat cake anyway, especially this age? So there's just so many questions right there, and then the red flag. No, it looked like it was taken in a prison cell. But yeah, so there's that. And this is just something else weird that I've seen on Facebook. Now, of course, I don't really use social media, but I do go on there sometimes, usually to try to check my smear campaign. Long story. But when I do that, I sometimes stumble upon stuff. And then, of course, as far as the adoption groups, some of those I joined just to make videos and spread awareness to what all could be going on. Because, of course, a lot of trafficking stuff goes on. And then there's also some stuff that seems like it could be scammy. But I honestly feel like they just do controlled opposition type stuff and weird stuff to try to confuse people and make people think that they're not trafficking, they are just a scam, or they are just selling reborns, which sometimes it seems like they probably are, and that would make sense too, because it kind of goes hand in hand with the child SA dolls and robots that people also get who are doing these types of things. But anyway, so I saw this, not in some group, I just saw it. Or at least I don't think it was in a group. And obviously there's hundreds of issues with this. I also feel like there's like a lot of subliminal stuff behind what this quote unquote joke actually means. Like, there's just so many things I could assume that this means other than what obviously is on the screen when it comes to the words. But yeah. Now, this probably is the actual people who are making these comments, but I do want to say that sometimes on these weird, scammy, sketchy, I don't know, social media posts and comments, especially for scams, which obviously this isn't a scam, this is just people doing what they do. They will use pictures of other people and even make up names, but there's a big chance that this is actually the people. So, this dude said it's funny because it's true, lol. And then someone liked it, of course. But I can honestly only imagine what that actually means. Because, like I said, one, this is obviously full of pedos talking about pedo stuff. And they love to talk in subliminals too. And it's all just really weird. Like, what's true? That a toddler is quote unquote horny? That the boy is hungry? Which I have a lot of questions revolving around that and what that actually is supposed to mean. And also the dude who's underwater. And yeah, I just wonder. Here's people sharing it. I'm gonna show some really questionable accounts off here. El Royer said hentai. And if you don't know what that is, that's animated child essay imagery. And I know people are going to try to make this a racial thing, but I'm not even going to go into that. Because honestly, I'm sure a lot of the people who are making that aren't even Asian or whatever. But yeah, anywho, to get back to the point though. So, what was I going to say? Hold up. Oh, yeah. So, back when that whole Gucci thing had happened, people had zoomed in on some of the papers that they were showing with their little quote unquote models, which were kidnapped kids. And of course, no one ever really took the time to actually try to save those pictures and really look into if they could find out who those kids were. Although, do keep in mind that a lot of people in global SR sex trafficking are born in either through the bloodlines that do it or through CPS. But yeah, so anywho, some of the papers that people were zooming into were talking about the law that was passed a long, long time ago where animated child essay imagery became legal. Or not, well, was it ever really illegal? I mean, molesters themselves don't even go to jail or get charged. But yeah, so that's what that makes me think of. And so yeah, I know that one they call Lowlycon, if I can even say that on here. And I don't remember what they called the other stuff. And then this one dude said heroin. That one was honestly kind of funny, but uh up here, Ken Nazar Mwang, probably not even really their real name, but they said too risky to share. So there's a lot I could say about that. So here's El Royer. He claims he's single. I hope he stays single because he's the type that'll get with somebody just to get with their kids. Some stupid person, too. Here's whatever in the world. Their bio says, trying to accept myself. And you notice that everything is always about acceptance instead of people just not doing certain things. And I mean, this isn't something that you should be accepting. And also, another thing is that it's not yourself either. It's the perversion spirits that either came into you through trauma and or you also opening the doorway more because of whatever you were doing. This isn't something that's yourself. This is something that you allow to take over you at least. Or you open the door yourself, because a window is when spirits come in through something that either you didn't do. Just ignore the background. This dude goes on little inward rants all night. I'm not even sure if he's hearable. I really hope not, but he's been doing this pretty much every day since he moved in. But what? He's really thrown off my train of thought. Now I already constantly lose my train of thought. But yeah, window means that the spirits came in through something like trauma that you didn't have any control over. Although I will say, when you get to points like this, you let something take over. But it could also be when you do something and then the spirits come in, but you didn't necessarily do it on purpose. And then the doorway is like full blown on purpose. Like if you were to, I don't know, start uh, tarot cards, but I mean, even a lot of people don't really know what they're doing there. In fact, if you could do tarot card readings and you're um doing prophecies through necromancy and the occult, 9 times out of 10 you already are anointed and have a prophetic gift anyway, but you're just now using it the wrong way. And then I see that they have their profile locked. I wonder what all is even on there. I guess I had a comment on here that I meant to screenshot but didn't, but I don't remember what they said. Then there's this. So, they said I prefer H with hentai, and it looks like they're quote unquote digital creator. I can only imagine what they're digitally creating. Their profile was private, I guess. And then their bio is this: don't judge me by my behavior. I only show you what I choose to show you. And reading that with the context I have just is unsettling. Back to the quote unquote adoption groups, there was this post that I could barely tell the meaning of. And then there was this. While looking at this, I noticed a profile picture. And I was thinking Freemason or Eastern Star because the women have to be in the Eastern Star, and then the younger girls are Rainbow Girls, I think. I think there's a couple branches for them. Just like how the boys are D Malay. But then I was like, well, it could be one of those university graduation gown things, which honestly are about the same thing, but obviously, like, even though they may be made behind the same purpose, it doesn't necessarily mean that the person's doing the same things. So, I clicked on the profile. So, yeah, here's this. And of course, that may or may not even actually be her. That may or may not even be the real name. Here's somebody claiming they got scammed. Honestly, why in the world would you be trying to buy kids anyway? Then there's this. Does your agency work with the DCFS with foster care? Wait, what? I should have clicked on their profile, but I didn't. And honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if they did. That's how these situations usually go. I mean, I've met people since I've been out here. I don't know. I don't really like the homeless term, but since I've been out here since escaping my previous lower level cash for kids system situation, I've met plenty of people out here who went through the whole thing where they're kidnapped or quote unquote adopted from some other country, and then they're brought to the US, and then they're given back into CPS slash foster care because commonly the rich white family that they went into decided they didn't want them anymore, And of course, they end up homeless either before or at 18. I mean, for one, being in foster care literally is being homeless. But sometimes they do really have them sleeping under bridges and stuff. And honestly, like a lot of people say, being in the streets, as in homeless, not in the streets like gang in the streets, they say that that's safer than being in a CPS care anyway. And what point was I getting at? Because I don't even remember. I don't even know. But yeah. So I wouldn't be surprised if CPS did work with whatever this is. Because that's how it usually goes. I mean, orphanages are honestly always sketchy. Like, some of the first cash for kids system branches, even before the mental health system branch, I'm pretty sure, were the orphanages, which were built under the pagan Roman Catholic Church and their eugenic systems. So, like, I'm pretty sure I have my timeline right. Before the mental health stuff really got to what it became, and that became one of the biggest branches of the Cash for Kids system, there was the orphanage branch. And then once the mental health system branch really did come along, they both went hand in hand because the orphans, of course, were being abused and brainwashed and messed up to become the quote unquote mentally ill / traumatized people. And like the orphans with Down syndrome, they were the quote unquote bad, crazy, and slow people that the mental health system started torturing. So, yeah. Well, I mean, no. No, I got my timeline messed up because the first branch of the Cash for Kids system would be the jail systems, actually, before anything else. Not that these aren't all pretty much jails, but yeah. I don't remember what point I was supposed to be getting to, but that's that. In fact, no, I mentioned this before in another video, but to throw in something else that's kind of irrelevant, once orphanages shut down, or quote unquote shut down, in the mental health system, well, no, let me rephrase all that. So, once the mental health facilities, quote unquote, went from being asylums to being smaller, and they didn't have room for everybody, and same thing with orphanages going from orphanages to group homes, all these people were thrown in prisons. Not that they weren't already in prisons, honestly, jail has always been way less worse than what happens in those specific institution branches of the cash for kids system and the adult cash cow systems, as I call them. But yeah, that's where they all went. And of course, it's it should be a known fact that the mental health system branch of the cash for kids system is the biggest branch and is tied in all of them. So if you're in like the CPS / foster care branch of the cash for kids system, you're gonna constantly be getting put in mental facilities or in jail. And of course, at CPS, they label you. They give you some made up label anyway to blame you for all your abuse, just like what they do when the foster kids go to court for about their essay and trafficking. When they do go to court, quote unquote court, they go to family court, and then they're forced to stand there and testify about all their essay. And then of course the lawyers and judges and social worker will look a 4-year-old in the eyes and tell them it's their fault because they're bad, crazy, and slow, and that's why they got essayed and whatever else. And so now I can end this video off.